Have you ever spent good money on a beautiful lavender plant, followed every instruction on the tag, watered it faithfully, improved the soil, and watched it slowly turn gray, woody, and lifeless before the season was even over? If that sounds familiar, you're far from alone, and the truth might surprise you. The problem isn't that you have a black thumb. The problem is that lavender has been marketed as the perfect garden plant when, in reality, it demands conditions that many home gardens simply can't provide. It craves fast-draining soil, struggles with humidity, dislikes heavy clay, and often fades away after only a few years, leaving gardeners frustrated and heading back to the nursery to buy another replacement. But what if you never had to play that expensive game again? What if there were fragrant perennials that not only smell even better than lavender but also survive drought, heat, poor soil, and changing seasons while rewarding you with flowers year after year, sometimes for generations? Today, we're uncovering 11 remarkable plants that completely change the way you think about a fragrant garden. These aren't temporary showpieces. They're long-term investments that grow stronger with age, attract pollinators, require less maintenance, and can transform your landscape into something unforgettable. And one of the plants later on this list hides an incredible secret. It barely smells while it's growing, but the moment you brush against it or bring it indoors, it releases an aroma so rich and unexpected that most gardeners never see it coming. You won't want to miss that reveal, but first, let's start with one of the greatest long-term investments any gardener can make. The first plant is the timeless peony. Imagine planting something today that could still be blooming beautifully nearly a century from now. It sounds unbelievable, but it's happening in gardens across America. Some peonies planted generations ago continue to bloom every spring without missing a single season, quietly outliving the people who planted them and becoming living family heirlooms. Picture an early summer morning when the air is cool, dew still sparkles on the grass, and before you even spot the flowers, their sweet fragrance reaches you first. The scent is luxurious, blending soft rose notes with a hint of citrus and a delicate powdery finish that fills the surrounding air. Then you see the blooms, massive blossoms the size of your hand in shades of crimson, blush pink, and creamy white, so full of petals that many gently bow under their own weight. Bring just one flower indoors, and it perfumes an entire room for days. What makes peonies even more valuable is something many gardeners never realize. As the plant matures, it naturally grows into a large clump that can be divided into several healthy new plants. Instead of spending money buying more flowers, one mature peony can eventually provide multiple new plants for free, making it one of the smartest long-term investments in any landscape. Even better, these spectacular blooms provide one of the earliest food sources for queen bumblebees emerging after winter, helping pollinators establish healthy colonies before many other flowers begin blooming. Next comes a plant that deserves far more attention than it gets: agastache, often called hummingbird mint. If you've been told lavender is the ultimate heat-loving perennial, prepare to discover something even tougher. While lavender often struggles through humid summers, agastache thrives in exactly those challenging conditions. Stand beside it during a hot July afternoon, and you'll immediately notice its unique fragrance: a refreshing blend of sweet anise, gentle licorice, and crisp herbal notes that linger pleasantly on your hands after touching the leaves. Its colorful flower spikes rise well above the foliage in brilliant shades of coral, deep purple, magenta, and glowing orange, becoming even more vibrant as temperatures climb. Instead of fading in intense summer heat, this plant seems to come alive, producing months of non-stop blooms that hummingbirds simply can't resist. In fact, many gardeners find they no longer need hummingbird feeders because these tiny birds return day after day to feed naturally from the flowers. Crush one leaf between your fingers and the fragrance becomes even stronger than the blossoms themselves, filling the air from spring until the first hard frost. Once established, agastache develops deep roots that search for moisture far below the soil surface, allowing it to survive dry periods with very little supplemental watering. It also supports an impressive variety of native bees, making it a beautiful choice that strengthens the health of your entire garden ecosystem. If your toughest challenge is a scorching border where deer constantly destroy everything you plant, the next perennial may completely change your gardening experience. Russian sage is often mistaken for lavender because of its silvery foliage and purple flowers, but that's where the similarities end. Unlike lavender, Russian sage seems to flourish in places where other plants surrender. Imagine the hottest afternoon of the year, with blazing sunlight reflecting off dry soil while neighboring plants wilt under the pressure. Russian sage stands tall and graceful, covered in airy clouds of violet-blue blossoms that appear to float above shimmering silver stems. As you brush past, a clean herbal fragrance rises into the air, carrying notes of sage, fresh herbs, and cool mint that instantly freshen the garden. One of its greatest hidden strengths is its natural ability to discourage deer. Rather than simply surviving occasional browsing, the aromatic oils released by its foliage make deer avoid the area altogether, creating a natural protective barrier around nearby plants. It's also incredibly forgiving, tolerating drought, poor soil, road salt, reflected heat, and minimal maintenance. A simple pruning each spring is usually all it needs before rewarding you with months of elegant color while supporting carpenter bees and late-season bumblebees searching for nectar. If you've ever dreamed of turning your backyard into a haven for hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees, the fourth plant belongs at the top of your list. Bee balm is one of nature's most remarkable pollinator magnets, producing vibrant flowers in brilliant shades of scarlet, pink, and violet that seem to glow in the summer sunshine. But its beauty is only part of the story. On warm afternoons, the foliage releases an inviting fragrance that blends citrus, bergamot, oregano, and subtle spice into an aroma many people instantly recognize from Earl Grey tea. That's no coincidence. The same aromatic compounds responsible for that familiar tea fragrance are naturally present in bee balm leaves. Even more fascinating is the flower's remarkable design. Over thousands of years, its tubular blooms evolved to perfectly match the beaks of hummingbirds, allowing them to reach nectar while carrying pollen efficiently from flower to flower. It's an extraordinary partnership shaped by nature itself. As the plant spreads into larger clumps over the years, it becomes a reliable gathering place for monarch butterflies, swallowtails, native bees, and countless other beneficial insects, turning an ordinary flower bed into a thriving wildlife sanctuary. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked fragrance plants in North America, mountain mint. Despite its name, it isn't the same aggressive culinary mint that takes over gardens. Instead, it's an incredibly valuable native perennial that quietly outperforms many expensive ornamentals. Even before it flowers, simply walking nearby releases a crisp, refreshing scent reminiscent of fresh spearmint mixed with cool forest air. Gently brushing the foliage transfers fragrant oils onto your skin that linger for hours. But the real magic lies in what happens around the plant. Researchers have documented astonishing numbers of different insect species visiting mountain mint in a single afternoon, making it one of the most important pollinator plants available for home landscapes. Bees, butterflies, beneficial wasps, beetles, hoverflies, and countless other helpful insects all gather around its flowers, creating a level of biodiversity rarely seen in a typical backyard. As it gradually spreads into dense patches, it also helps suppress weeds naturally, reducing maintenance while supporting healthier fruit trees, vegetable gardens, and flowering beds nearby. By the time you've planted these first 5 perennials, you've already built a garden that's more beautiful, more resilient, and far more valuable to local wildlife than a landscape filled with short-lived lavender alone. But we're only getting started, because the next plant transforms an ordinary summer evening into an unforgettable sensory experience unlike anything you've ever smelled in a garden. As the sun begins to set and the heat of the day slowly fades, one plant quietly takes center stage. Garden phlox doesn't just bloom, it transforms the atmosphere. On a calm summer evening, its rich fragrance drifts effortlessly through the air long before you reach the flower bed. The scent is warm and inviting, blending sweet honey, soft vanilla, and delicate floral notes into an aroma that feels comforting and unforgettable. Large clusters of blossoms in shades of white, pink, lavender, and deep magenta glow beautifully in the fading light, creating a display that seems almost magical at dusk. Cut a few stems for a vase indoors, and they'll perfume an entire room for nearly a week. Choose modern disease-resistant varieties, provide good air circulation, and you'll enjoy months of spectacular blooms while supporting evening pollinators like hummingbird moths, which emerge after sunset to continue the important work that daytime pollinators began. If deer constantly turn your carefully planted flowers into an all-you-can-eat buffet, the next plant offers one of the simplest long-term solutions. Catnip produces graceful waves of lavender blue flowers over soft silver-green foliage, creating an elegant border that looks professionally designed with very little effort. Its cool herbal fragrance is pleasant for people but surprisingly overwhelming to deer, causing them to avoid the area before they even attempt to browse. Even better, catnip rewards a simple mid-season trim by producing an entirely new flush of flowers just a few weeks later, effectively giving you 2 spectacular blooming seasons from a single plant. Throughout both bloom periods, bees remain constant visitors, helping pollinate nearby vegetables, fruit trees, and berry bushes while adding continuous life and movement to your garden. For gardeners who love silver foliage but have struggled to keep lavender alive, there's another remarkable alternative hiding in plain sight. Lavender cotton, also known as Santolina, delivers everything many people hoped lavender would provide. Its finely textured silver leaves seem to shimmer under bright sunlight, while tiny golden yellow flowers add cheerful contrast during midsummer. Run your fingers across the foliage and you'll notice a clean herbal fragrance with hints of rosemary and chamomile. What truly makes Santolina exceptional is its natural engineering. Tiny hairs covering every leaf reflect intense sunlight, while reducing moisture loss, allowing the plant to stay healthy during scorching heat and prolonged drought with almost no extra care. Instead of fighting harsh conditions, it was built to thrive in them, making it an outstanding choice for dry borders, rock gardens, and difficult planting sites where many other perennials fail. Now it's time for the surprising plant I promised at the beginning. Sweet woodruff may seem almost unremarkable when it's growing in the garden. Its tiny white flowers and lush green foliage create a peaceful woodland carpet, and its fresh scent is subtle at best. But the moment you cut it and allow it to dry, something extraordinary happens. Natural compounds inside the leaves begin developing into a rich aroma filled with warm vanilla, fresh cut hay, and gentle sweetness unlike almost anything else in the plant world. The transformation is so dramatic that people have treasured this plant for centuries, using it to scent homes, wardrobes, and bedding long before modern air fresheners ever existed. Even today, sweet woodruff remains one of the few highly fragrant plants that flourishes in dry shade beneath mature trees, filling difficult spaces where many flowering plants simply refuse to grow. If you've ever struggled to find something beautiful for those dark corners of your landscape, this quiet performer deserves serious consideration. Moving from ground covers to shrubs, spicebush introduces an entirely different fragrance experience. Unlike most plants that rely only on flowers, spicebush surprises you every season. Scratch a young stem or gently crush a leaf, and an incredibly rich blend of citrus, warm spice, and woody resin fills the air almost instantly. In early spring, clusters of cheerful yellow flowers appear before the leaves emerge, providing one of the earliest food sources available for native bees. As summer progresses, the lush green foliage creates a beautiful natural backdrop, while autumn transforms the entire shrub into brilliant golden color accented by bright red berries that feed migrating songbirds preparing for their long journeys south. Perhaps most importantly, spicebush serves as the essential host plant for the magnificent spicebush swallowtail butterfly. Without this shrub, that butterfly cannot complete its life cycle. Planting one doesn't simply attract wildlife, it helps ensure an entire species continues to thrive in your local ecosystem. Finally, we arrive at a plant that delivers breathtaking beauty without the problems traditionally associated with its famous relatives. Most gardeners admire the dramatic purple waterfalls created by wisteria but avoid planting it after hearing stories about invasive vines damaging buildings, fences, and trees. Fortunately, there's a much better option. Native American Wisteria amethyst falls provides the same spectacular spring display while remaining far easier to manage. During bloom, graceful clusters of lavender purple flowers cascade from pergolas, fences, or arbors, releasing a sweet fragrance with hints of grapes, honey, and delicate florals that surrounds anyone standing nearby. Unlike aggressive Asian varieties that may take many years before flowering, Amethyst Falls often begins blooming within its first few growing seasons and stays much more manageable in size. Proper pruning twice each year keeps it neat, healthy, and blooming abundantly while providing valuable nectar for native bees and butterflies. Now that you've discovered these 11 remarkable alternatives to lavender, one important question remains. Why do so many gardeners continue struggling with fragrant plants year after year? The answer isn't usually the plant, it's preparation. Before planting anything, remember 3 simple rules that can dramatically improve your long-term success. First, always prioritize drainage. Waterlogged roots kill far more fragrant perennials than drought ever will. Test your soil before planting, and if water drains slowly, improve it with coarse grit, compost, or raised beds. Second, prepare the soil thoroughly the first time. These are long-lived perennials that may remain in place for decades, so giving them rich, well-balanced soil at planting provides benefits you'll enjoy for years without constantly correcting problems later. And finally, design your garden around fragrance, not just appearance. Place evening-scented plants like garden phlox close to patios and seating areas where you'll naturally enjoy their perfume after sunset. Position foliage-fragrant plants like mountain mint, catmint, agastache, and Santolina beside walkways where brushing past them releases their hidden aromas. Reserve woodland plants like sweet woodruff and spicebush for shaded areas beneath mature trees. When fragrance is planned as carefully as color, your landscape becomes an experience rather than simply a collection of flowers. Instead of enjoying a few short weeks of blooms, you'll experience changing scents from spring through late autumn, welcoming pollinators, birds, butterflies, and beneficial insects throughout the growing season. The best part is that many of these plants become more beautiful with age rather than fading away after only a few years. They multiply naturally, require less maintenance, and continue rewarding your original planting decision season after season. So before you spend more money replacing another struggling lavender plant, consider choosing perennials that are truly matched to the conditions in your garden. They won't just save you time and money, they'll create a landscape filled with lasting fragrance, thriving wildlife, and unforgettable beauty for years to come. If you found even one new plant you'd love to grow, let us know which one caught your attention the most, share your gardening zone, and tell us the biggest challenge you're trying to solve in your landscape. Every garden is different, but with the right plants in the right places, you can create a space that becomes more colorful, more fragrant, and more rewarding with every passing year.